for our listeners, why don't you give us a quick summary about what you do and sort of where you work in sales?
Okay, so basically, I was working for IBM and Microsoft as a seller, as a sales leader in different regional diversities. And after that, I moved basically to the biggest publishing company in Slovenia, which is also a retail company for bookstores. So I was part of the board as an authorized officer of the board, responsible for digital transformation, sales, and also IT. So a bit of combining what I was selling in order to empower organizations from a different side. So I have kind of a buyer's experience as well. But after that, I moved to my own. So now I'm basically offering and helping companies to do the basic sales framework, so they can relieve any stress how they will selling. Yeah. Connecting sales tech and all the knowledge that I have from both sides.
Okay. I think there's a couple of things I find quite interesting there I'd like to sort of dig into. The first is you mentioned, having the perspective of being on the buy side as well as, of course, selling, right? How important do you think that is? Because I think a lot of times sales ultimately comes down to empathy and kind of putting yourself in the shoes of the buyer and being almost able to anticipate their next move or what they might say. Like a bit of advice that someone gave me previously on one of these episodes was like, if you are sending multiple chasers to a buyer, to a prospect, then, it doesn't hurt to kind of turn around and say, hey, look, I know this might be getting really annoying by now, but I really think this solution could help you. So kind of being able to put yourself in those shoes. How important do you think that is? And how much did that help you as a sales lady sort of being on the buy side as well?
I mean, yeah, it is a big experience, and I wanted this experience because it's much easier being there. Because as a buyer, you have your own frustrations or your own fears and priorities. And I was kind of using this, let's say, year and a half, basically also when talking to mainly sales tech guys, because, this is the way from which I'm coming from, and trying to coach them all the time, guys, look, when you come to sell, ask me about the timeline, ask me who else in my company I need to convince. So there are a lot of stuff we can talk about further on, but I think it's important experience. And I've been, let's say, 15 plus years seller. Yeah. So leading teams and so on. And they teach you, you get your, experiences, how to put yourself into buyer's shoes. But on the other hand, I felt this stress, when I was a buyer. I was annoyed, although I knew that I was doing the same and that probably they are doing their best. So I think I got this experience. Yeah.
Like you were frustrated with the people trying to sell to you in that sense?
Yeah. Not only with the people, but also with the system inside the company. Yeah? So they were working hard. I had my own priorities. I would like this to be on the table, that my team would already have this solution, let's say, implemented. But there are some obstacles like buying process, like different priorities and different influencers. Because in big companies, there are different stakeholders. You need to manage outside or inside. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's interesting. So then you mentioned about basic frameworks in the sales stack. Could you explain that a little bit more for any of our listeners that are not familiar with those words?
Yeah, of course. So basically, either it's a startup in, let's say, which is 2 years already, they have developed their product or services whatsoever. Or if it's traditional, let's say, big company already, they have some mergers, acquisitions, or they may be launching new products, new services, or whatsoever. When you want your sales to be efficient, so to hit the targets or whatever, you need to give them the background. Yeah? So everybody needs to understand what is the value proposition, what is the key benefits of your products, because marketing needs to then align with you. Finance needs to align. Reporting, basically controlling people, needs to be aligned with the reports you need. You have to also incentivize your people correctly. When let's say when we switch in Microsoft from on-prem products to consumption products, so to SaaS, they switch incentives, they switch the marketing. So everything needs to be switched and aligned. So the basic frameworks, and it's very important for, let's say, for startups when they start, that they settle down and said, okay, what is my value proposition? What I want to sell, to whom I want to sell, who is my, let's say, ideal customer profile. They cannot be everybody, because then it's nobody. So yes, there are tough decisions to be made, but these are the workshops we need to go through. And the main reason is they need to decide. And this is hard. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's like you can't be everything to everybody. I mean, it's such a dilemma that people have when they're trying to sculpt out their value proposition and come up with the ideal customer profile, because you see so many, your eyes basically fill up with currency signs where it's like, oh, we can make money here, we can make money there, we can make money here, but then you end up making money nowhere because you're constantly getting out competed by people that are niching down in one particular area. Speaking of which, what is then, in these workshops with, let's say, startup founders that come in, what's the biggest mistake that you see founders making in the very early stage?
Mainly they talk about their features and functions, and they are so thrilled about their services and products, which is great, because otherwise they wouldn't invest so many time, resources, and everything, to build it. And they are solving someone's problem. But it's hard for them to somehow limit themselves, at least for some period, because value proposition is changing. Now is then you will move to something else. So the main challenge I see with founders is they need to step out from the product. And this is, let's say, also happening when they have nice to have products, like not bottom line, but nice to have products, because then they are basically making the world a better place, which is fine. But the people who are buying needs to have their solution. It's fine that you're doing something good, like all the well-being programs or all the, let's say, employee experience. It's fine, but show me the money. Show me where you will save some costs or make me more profit or value added of your employee or so on. So these discussions are sometimes hard because they are very good in themselves, but in order to sell,
they almost fall in love with their own marketing, right? And then it stops becoming about the ROI of the customer.
Exactly.
So how do you tackle that then?
I need to challenge them. So basically the workshops, it depends how many people is there. So I like if there are at least, let's say, 3, not 1. 1 is fine, but it's easier when you have the group dynamic. Then you can challenge each and everybody. They challenge themselves. Right. And we said, okay, let's do the phases. So we don't shrink immediately. We shrink by phases. So this is the main discussion. I need to show them different examples. Sometimes I have very, very stupid examples, like, when people want to lose weight, usually everybody says, come to my program, you will lose weight. But basically, it's not my problem. I need to have a flat belly or whatever, somebody wants to have. So you need to really streamline. I'm focusing on men who would like to lose fat around the belly. And everybody else will come as well.
Yeah. Having a niche, right? Like having a like almost being able to extrapolate on why that product is useful for what it does. Like I think I give an example there as well that comes to mind. Like, people that want to lose weight for a holiday. Like here we have a holiday boot camp for you to lose weight, right? So kind of going that next step where someone's like, yeah, I need to lose weight, but yes, exactly for holiday. So this person understands it needs to happen quickly. It needs to happen at this rate, right? It kind of speaks to the customer a lot more.
Exactly. At the moment. So weddings, such a examples.
Great example. I love that you gave the example of losing weight, because I saw that you have your own fitness studio as well. Is that right?
Exactly, with my brother.
Oh,
he's the boss there. So it's a company. He's the boss there, but we are working together.
Oh, that's cool. So sort of balancing sales and the fitness studio.
I'm there, like, it's really tiny. So I'm helping with sales and all that stuff because he's 12 years younger. So I try to, help him a lot.
Okay.
But he's become a marketing guru himself, I have to say, and also the sales. Because selling online, fitness programs, it's not so easy, and you need to do the business well, not just be a fitness coach. So
absolutely, and there's so much competition, right? That's a really, really saturated area where I feel that's an area where self-branding goes a long, long, long way.
Exactly. Yeah. And there is a lot of free stuff, and it's kind of a general. So we've been talking last time that let's say basically he's spending 60% of his time on marketing and sales and all the fun and stuff and so on, and the rest is doing the programs and let's say upgrading his knowledge.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So back to sales. I like this idea of exploring your own concepts, exploring your own offering through group discussion. Because as you said, you're trying to give people different perspectives, and what better way to do it than to have multiple people kind of go in themselves. So what happens next after that? You got the value proposition now. Someone's come to you and said, "Hey, Petra, look, I've worked on it for the last couple of weeks. Here's the value proposition. We're trying to sell the fitness programs to this specific niche." So what happens next?
So basically, when you define your value proposition, we also go a step further to ideal customer profile. We a little bit more dig in a little bit more. And then after we have this ideal customer profile, we go, okay, then we decide and hit the target list. Okay. And we said, okay, this is the pyramid. Those 3%, everybody will go. Let's leave them now. There are big fishes. Don't waste time, maybe. Yeah. And we took the other ones. Yeah. And then we basically do the list of customers based on let's say on the territory or the region or, however you have your resources available to list the customers, by name, around so the company names, if this is the B2B, let's say. Then we said, okay, now we have the list of 50 customers. Let's see who knows somebody from those companies, either through LinkedIn profile or personal relationship or whatsoever. And then we choose, the top 10, let's say, and we go, who are the customers, influencers and decision makers. So I have them streamline a little bit down to the level that they can have let's say an action plan. And then depends whether they have their sales team already there or this is still the owner, or they prefer and do the webinar and then continue, or they will do the, let's say, different outbounds, inbounds. We talk about how they will approach, but the end result of all those phases is action plan. And so they have an action plan for this product or services with which they can go and do the marketing campaign. They can go and do the inside sales calling or whatever they want. They can also, let's say, get some investments based on what they need. So this is the action plan they have in hands, and then they are relieved, So I said always the stress level is down now. They know what they are selling, to whom they are selling, and they know per day, because usually we do the 90-day plan, per day what they will do. So they can, maybe if this is the company that doesn't have the sales team, I always said, you will do 1 hour or 2 hours per day selling, and then you can go and think about your product, and enjoy. But you need to do this 2 hours or 1 hour, whatever we agree in this 90-day plan. Right. And we have some check-ins. So they have something in their hands, like action plan.
Yeah, and I guess it keeps the momentum, right? Because you're giving them quotas every single day. Just make sure you do this. Even if it falls flat on its face, just do it every single day, and gradually you're going to see results.
Yeah, and they have some obstacles, there is downside, upside, how this goes. Yeah. And we can always step in and then, okay, tell me what's the problem, why it doesn't move, and we can discuss that. Yeah.
You know how you mentioned, like, okay, when you you got your value proposition and you're looking for your target list of people that you want to contact. So that might be companies, you might have the big fish, small fish, low-hanging fruit, etc. But then you also go the next step and say, do I know anybody? Do you know anyone who actually works here? So that's, leveraging your network to kind of get those intro calls, get those demo calls, or whatever, like the first interaction. Do you have any data on how much more successful that is than just pure cold calling? Have you got any case studies or come across any examples where, you got one entrepreneur who kind of came by and said, hey, Petra, look, I actually don't have any connections at these companies. This is my first, I used to work in the public sector maybe, and, I don't know anyone in the private sector, compared to an entrepreneur that says, hey, yeah, actually, I used to work at this startup and we know a bunch of people in this industry. Like, it would be really interesting to know how much more successful the latter is than the former with warm intros.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I don't have a data. I can talk from my experience, being a sales in IBM or Microsoft. whenever I went to a new territory, so there are mergers of the regions in those big corporations, and now you are responsible for Romania, and then you get the Hungary and so on. So whenever you go into the new territory, you basically don't know. So you do your homework at the company. So who living in Hungary knows these guys, and then you proceed, because otherwise nobody will pick up the phone or email. So it's not the data, but it's 17 years of experience.
Absolutely.
Do find some hook before cold calling if it's possible. Yeah, it can be like or follow on LinkedIn. We were using all those stuff differently and check. But prepare yourself. Yeah.
So I basically have a few touch points before, like, so that they see you and you're not just some random name that's popping up. They're like, oh wait, that rings a bell in my mind. I think I've seen you on LinkedIn, or I've seen you here, I've seen you there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here's a question. You know how you said, you've sold in different geographies. Do you find the sales process is different based on the geography that you're in?
Basically, the process itself, it's pretty much the same. The differences are cultural. Let's say somebody are really nice, let's say the same banks, so the same industry, yeah? But they will do the business over lunch. Somebody will do over dinner. The others, on other parts, I need a mail because I was a woman selling. I need a mail, or it was best that he does the first contact. So there are some differences.
And then culturally speaking, which countries were the easiest to kind of, get warm leads and the most comfortable sales process?
I mean, I believe for me, coming from Slovenia, it's Slovenia and all the Balkan countries, so ex-Yugoslavia, yeah, because we still feel that we know each other and
that connection.
We can have the same sense of humor, let's say.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, from the distance perspective, the easier, and the language barriers and so on, yeah. Of course, we all speak English, but when you find somebody who can speak a little bit of your language, it's
it goes a long way. I think that there's a Nelson Mandela quote that's like, when you speak to someone in a language they know, it goes to their head. When you speak to them in the language that their mother tongue, goes to their heart.
Yeah, true, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's sort of aimed at the reason I asked about the different geographies, kind of aimed at founders that are selling internationally. They might be from one country and are trying to make sales in another country. Would you say it's a smart idea to do research beforehand, kind of like understand the culture a little bit, like get the norms? Because when you work in a corporation, someone can tell you that ahead of time, but when you work in a startup, there's no one to tell you this.
I think yes. Yeah, I'm a sociologist by my educational background. Yeah, so nice. I think it's very important to understand a little bit of culture, and it always can change a bit. So it's fine to do the homework before the research and come prepared. Ask somebody. Now with all those technology, you can easily get feedback. Yeah. So.
So I think moving forward through the sales process, right? So you've got your value proposition, got your target customers, reaching out to them, and now let's say you've got warm leads. Spoke to them a few times, and they're kind of like, "Hey, you know what? It's kind of interesting. I like what you got." How do you go, like, essentially playing the role of an account executive? How do you convert a warm lead to a sale? Like, what are you looking for in those calls? When someone says, "I'm interested, I want to learn more," what response are you trying to evoke from the prospect so that you can get closer to the sale?
Basically, when you explain me where we are with the warm lead, so basically I got it. Yeah. Otherwise, if I got the lead from marketing, then I need first to qualify it. Yeah. So if I get it myself, then I know where I am. Yeah. So first, I go further with the question. Yeah. I never say go directly and present the stuff or do the POC or whatsoever. Yeah. Go with questions so that you understand, and that basically he understands, yeah, that they have the problem, that they realize what is the biggest problems they have. And, there are some questions you ask them, and then, okay, maybe, if we do the step further, let's make a together, so I could maybe help you to resolve this challenge or this problem, or however you want to say it. Yeah. Sometimes we said we don't talk about problems, but basically they are. Yeah. So I always go a little bit more about the questioning. Then if this is a big enterprise customer, I would really advise to also to do the, let's say, the structure of the people who are other influencers. As I said, when I was a buyer, I had the challenge with other influencers, because they have other priorities. Nobody wants to block you, but they have other priorities. Yeah. So to realize the stakeholder map in that company, and also to get the buying process. You really need to understand the buying process because they are different. Public sector, banks, they somebody needs more offers. Somebody, has many decision makers. Like I read in a book from one very good Australian author. He said it's like 6.8 people now that needs to decide for a big, let's say, enterprise software stuff, like ERP or big CRM and so on. So it's kind of a long process. So let me understand the buying process so I know where I can help. Let me understand your stakeholder map so I can maybe go, if you allow as a buyer that I go to your IT or that I go to your HR or to finance or whoever, that I go and help you on that. And then it's one very important stuff that it's, let's say, prompting up right now with startups, shadow IT. Because there are good advices. Go sell some, let's say, basic software to marketing. They will put the credit card. It's very cheap. It's 100 euro per month or whatsoever. Nobody will realize you don't need a budget. You can do that. And finally, you have your own solution. But in big enterprises, we call this shadow IT. And the new, it's not so new, but the software now, let's say cloud app security or whatsoever software, can block you that. Your IT guys will be angry because it's not, or the CISO will be angry because you didn't go there to talk to him whether it is in their architecture, just to check. So I always advise, if this is some kind of SaaS software SaaS software that somebody will buy from, let's say, line of business, check with IT whether it's okay for their IT architecture, whether it's okay for cybersecurity guy. Then you will have the possibility to upsell and cross-sell furthermore. Otherwise, they will block you. Yeah? And this is, I always said, check shadow IT. It's nice first step, but you will not upsell and cross-sell if you screw this up.
Right. Okay. So shadow IT is a term for selling in a very minimalistic product just for some easy revenue. Is that right?
Yeah, it's basically it's a term that you go and sell to different functions, not IT. And it's for SaaS software. When you put your credit card or the company credit card, and you have the solution which your IT doesn't know about. Yeah. So if I come to IT and I said, give me the list, all the applications that you are running, he will not know that they're in financing, they are running some other software. Yeah.
So you use it under the radar.
Challenge. Yeah, it's off the radar, and it can be security challenge for cybersecurity attacks.
I see. Okay, so the key lesson there is understand the stakeholder as a SaaS company, which is IT, and make sure that whatever you're doing is compatible with that. So there's always future for upsells.
And usually it's not no. Yeah, they don't care because it's SaaS, it's secure. All the startups and everybody are doing, let's say, everything to be secure. But it's fine to have the relationship. Yeah. So yeah, it's okay, and we can continue.
Absolutely. So back to the process of qualifying the lead, and then you kind of mentioned that never go in and sell from the get-go. Make sure it's a conversation, and almost present your solution as the answer to problems that you uncover in the conversation.
Yeah.
So at what point have you ever had to decide that, I'm sure you have, but decide, okay, this customer is actually not the right fit? And at what point do you call it off?
I mean, as soon as the better, because you don't lose the time. Yeah. So it's fine that you ask another question so they don't feel offended that you quit because it doesn't have the interest. But basically, the sooner the later you realize that they don't have such a problem, that your solution is maybe better fit for somebody else. You explain and you said, look, it's my solution is selling in, let's say, if you have multiple companies or multiple locations, and it's not so good if you only have one location, it's overkill or oversell or whatsoever. No, everybody will be happy. Yeah? And you can continue with something else. You spend your time and there as well.
Okay, and then on the other side, if the customer's the right customer, and you think, all right, it's perfect, let me sell to this person, but they keep hitting you with objections. How do you deal with objections?
I mean, I'm not exactly teaching the objections in my program, because there are other guys who are doing upskilling. But when I was running my team, I always go by 3 R's. Yeah, so let's say respond, react, and so on. So let's hear the objection, let's reframe it. Yeah, let's then respond it, and then react and show the different argumentation. Yeah, these are very, very. There are plenty of let's say methodologies how you do the objection handling.
Yeah.
But this one is, let's say, was my favorite. Yeah, I was using it a lot. So I try to do with this person, and then if maybe there is not a click, and he knows the problem because it's not the problem with him but somebody else. I ask him to if he's okay that I move to another person that he suggests, or you can always send some other coworker or some other guy to go and talk to the other one at the same company. So I try to change also the people to whom I'm talking, but in a way that we still keep relationship. People are easily offended. Yeah. So
yeah, this is true. So let's try and actually just give the listeners an example there. So let's say if we go back to our example, you're selling fitness programs for losing belly fat for holidays, right, for men. So now I'm going to go on holiday this summer. I got a trip to Albania, or even I'm coming to Lake Bled actually. So you tell me about the program. I say, look, Petra, sounds great. I think it's too expensive. I can't afford it. How do you respond to that?
It's basically before you come to this that is too expensive, I need to drive you through different questions. Yeah. So like, why would you like to lose weight? What is your real motivation that you will lose weight? Then how will you feel? Did you try this many times before? What was the main obstacle that you didn't do it? Yeah. So when you do your process, you realize that you need help. Yeah. So basically, I need you to realize that you tried multiple times, so you really need the help. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see from the reference stories that I can send you through pictures and discussions that we help so many people that they really are happy and they lose weight. Yeah. And of course, you are already in, let's say, you received some freebies, you are already in community when you see other guys talking. So you are really warm before we come and talk about the price. Yeah. Otherwise, usually, the price is the point where you either take it or lose it with these programs.
Yeah.
There are, of course, payment terms like, okay, then, what would be for you the best price? You can go with 1 year program or you can go with 8 weeks. Yeah. So if you go with 8 weeks, it's such a price. If you commit for yearly, it's such a price. So what's the problem? You don't have cash now, or, what's the challenge? Or we can try and we can say, okay, the shortest term usually we have is 8 weeks because we need to show something. And
of course, yeah.
Be. So, this is it. Yeah, basically. So we come to that decision is you go, you can still be in this free, let's say, community group. And then you will find that so many people already did it and you find a way.
So it's about having asked enough questions that when the objection comes, you have enough information to reframe it.
Yeah, you need a lot of information about the person. So that's why also in this program that we are running, we really communicate a lot through different, let's say, platforms. Yeah, so we are mainly on TikTok and Facebook with fitness program. And there are a lot of daily communications that you start with people just talking, just to understand what are their habits, what are their challenges. They have children, they don't have children. They have a lot of, let's say, work. They need to travel for work. They have night shifts, So you really need to understand the basic, let's say, I would like to say the basic day, the average day. And then you can help him or her.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, this is where I guess in the startup world, it comes down to when they discuss outlining your customer profiles, the personas of your different customers. And in sales, they call it ICP, right? Your ideal customer profile, and really knowing what is it that person goes to sleep thinking about. What do they lose sleep over?
Yeah. I always say, look, you can do your ideal customer profile by, you receive this Excel sheet and you have all the geography, I don't know, industry, employee level, whatever. Yeah. But at the end, I always said, and don't forget about emotional. Yeah. You need to really be, let's say, you really need to understand emotionally how they feel, what's motivate them as a person, not as a company. Because I can be an HR director and something drives me, and the other lady, something drives her properly different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't forget about emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally, I had another conversation with someone on the series, and we were talking about empathy, how empathy is so important as a salesperson. Like really being able to put yourself in the shoes of the person you're speaking to and humanizing the conversation. Because I think, every time I personally get one of those calls saying, hey, would you like to buy this? We have this offer. It feels like they're trying to take something from me, It's like they automatically, when you're trying to sell directly, sell too hard, you're automatically like you're an enemy. You're like, right, you're trying to remove cash from my wallet. It's not happening. Leave me alone. Whereas, whenever they come across much more personable, then it's like, okay, you know what? Like, yeah, you're a person. I will talk to you as a person. And then then you're much less defensive. I find that it's way easier to kind of motion someone towards a sale and actually show them why it might be beneficial to them.
Exactly what you said. And there is a step further, we always say you need to be honestly curious.
Yes.
Yeah. You can have the one-pager sheet with all the questions, from these funny stories when they have a list and they go one question. If he said yes, then ask that. If he said no, then ask that. Yeah. But when you are doing the sale, you need to be curious. It's the conversation. It's not the sale. People like to say, yeah, it's not the sale. Be curious, ask questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you will ask questions, then you have to shut up. Listen and ask another question. Yeah. And this is for sellers. Also, I had that problem as well. We all like to talk. Yeah. And the owners of startups, they like to talk about their baby. It's their baby, their product, their services. So
yeah. It's as I think it was it, did we discuss this? Just I'm losing track of when I had certain conversations, but taking yourself outside the product, being able to look at the product and say, okay, the product is the product, but now let me speak to the person, because let me forget completely about my product and understand the process of the person I'm trying to sell to. We did talk about this at the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
We did. Yeah.
So I'm losing my mind.
But maybe you talk to others as well, because it's pretty much the same.
I'm having a lot of conversations about sales at the moment. Yeah, it's all kind of just blending in. So then, the value proposition of your program is to speed up the sales process, right? This is the kind of one-liner I saw on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, to speed up and relieve stress from owners, because I see them stressed, and more they go through, they usually they receive some money. Yeah, they develop the product, then they maybe move to nice offices. They employ some guys, and they leave for a year or two, and they would like to get another, let's say, money investment, but they didn't start selling yet. Yeah, they maybe sold to 2-3 friends or 2 first connections. But this is not a standardized sell, So they were never in sales, or they never liked sales. So I really help them set up the framework. So it's a base, like for the house. And then they can be relieved. They can go and do their products, something what they like. Yeah. But without this base, they will not have the scalable sales. This is the problem, You can do 1-2 sales. Sale, but then to scale and to a little bit more automate. Or I also heard a lot of stories when I'm working here in the region with some smaller startups. We employed a seller. He was with us, let's say 6 to 9 months, but he couldn't sell anything, so we are better off alone. And then I started those questions, but did you give him some framework? No. They are all experienced. They know how to sell. It's not the same. Yeah, we can be all the best sellers, the best account executives, fully skilled, but company needs to give us what we are selling, to whom, why, what are key benefits, and so on. Yeah, so we need this framework.
Yeah, makes sense. So then, what is the biggest? I guess I can sort of guess, but I want to hear it from your words. What's the biggest inefficiency of your clients when they come to you? Like, where can you save them the time?
Basically, they are selling to everybody, or they are basically not selling. Yeah, so I can streamline them and save them that 2 hours per day. They will really sell, and all the rest they won't. Yeah, so they will be okay. Otherwise, they are actually, when you're doing something and you're not really doing, you need to have a focus. So this is the mainly, and at the end, the sales cycle will be shorter. Yeah. Now they have a lot of sales cycle. They have many lunches, many discussions, and everything is so fuzzy. Yeah. So
it's a lack of process, really.
Yeah, it's a structure and the process. It can be, it's very tough to hear that for a startup. You need to structure and you need the process. But you know that after 2 years, if you haven't do it and you don't know really what, sales, it's a profession. Yeah, and the art. I will post a nice LinkedIn post in few days. Yeah, and I was a dancer myself. Yeah, competitive dancer, Latin American and ballroom. And when you see those dancers on the floor, they are so nice and easy, and everything is so, it looks easy. But in order to be on a stage like that, you need a framework, you need a process, you need the technique, you need the hard work. So this is sales. Yeah, I can be a nice seller. Yeah, I can sell something, but there are some basics that I need.
Fundamentals.
Fundamentals. Yeah. So
yeah, and then it's even like if something does work, you want to know why it works. So having a process can tell you why it works. It's like, okay, this part of the process is working really well. We're getting loads of warm leads, but none of them are converting into sales. What are we doing wrong in this section? Well, this is what we're currently doing. Because if you know what you're currently doing, then you know what you can possibly change and experiment with as well.
Exactly. And this is how, people now on LinkedIn always, they post and then they analyze it. Yeah. So whatever we do, also when you do the let's say the fitness program, you do the program and you analyze, okay, if I eat this, because people are different. Yeah. I can eat some stuff somebody else cannot. And it's also the lady and it's also 44, and also had 3 kids. So it can be the same. It can be also the same culture, but it's, her digestion works differently than mine. So you need to analyze your data a bit. Yeah. Don't lose time, but
okay, that's interesting, because a part of that is like you want to give a process enough time to see how well it works. So how often should you analyze with the intention to correct and modify?
It depends on the let's say on the solution. If the solution is very easy, let's say we talk about putting something on LinkedIn, you can do 14 days and see, whether it's long post, short post, I don't know. Yeah? But when you have a base, when you are starting growing, it's different. Yeah. But if there is a, let's say, long-term sales process with enterprise solutions like CRM or ERP, you cannot analyze it after 14 days. So it really depends on what you are selling and the implementation and when the customer experience really rise up.
Yeah. And then how do you keep your clients accountable to their day-to-day work?
Yeah, I need to keep them accountable. Otherwise, they would like me to be accountable for their sale. Yeah.
But how? How do you keep them accountable? Is it
with check-ins? Basically, usually with check-ins. But first, when we do all this stuff and we have action plan. Yeah. So when we done first part of the process, we do the action plan. And action plan has goals, and objections and key criteria. Yeah. We decided together if they want me to continue with them. We decided which are key criteria, which are objections, who is responsible in their team, and then we do the check-ins. Usually in big enterprises is weekly, otherwise it can be also bi-weekly. If this is a small company, you cannot check what you're doing. So it's always OKRs, how we call it. So with timelines and owners.
What does that stand for again? OKR?
Objection and key results. So you set objections, you set KPI. It's more than KPI. And you set the timeline till when and who will do. And then you have a list. So if you said, okay, this campaign will run for those customers, you will post on LinkedIn, you will do the calls, you will do the I don't know what. We check this. If this is done, and then we can evaluate either campaign was okay or not. What we need to do better.
I guess an unrelated question to that I have is like, are there any interesting sales technologies out there that you find have added value to yourself or your clients or in sales teams you've worked in the past?
So basically, right now, when I was really working, I was in a, let's say, old school company when we were really implementing database decision making and some basic CRM. And really, really basic technologies. But before, when I was back in Microsoft, We heavily used all the technologies related to predictive, predictive analytics. Then we also used, all the media that were bring on the customer. So how we can decide which are really warm leads. So everything that comes into CRM nowadays, all the ads on, we already use it. Yeah, we also implemented some of the sales navigator and so on. But now I think that daily there are some new tools that you can put some add-on. So I wouldn't, stress people if they don't have a big sales team or if they don't have a big leads, a big list of leads or so on, to kind of go and really kill it themselves with the technology.
Yeah.
I am tech lady. Yeah, I'm coming from there, but let's do the basics first.
Focus on the fundamentals first.
Yeah, and then of course use the technology. Otherwise, we are dead because everybody will be faster than we are. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that goes without saying for a lot of different aspects of life in general, right? It's like so many people would like to overcomplicate things with the fancy new trend, the new fads. Like take fit. We've been talking about fitness as an example consistently. Like in fitness, it's always, oh, look at this protein, or try this diet, or do this thing, do that thing, and it's like, oh, it's not working. And it's like, well, how many times did you go to the gym last week? Oh, I skipped all my sessions. I went half an hour twice a week. Well, maybe that's why you didn't have any results. You didn't do the fundamental thing you're supposed to do to get the result.
Exactly. Yeah. So, these are always the basics, but of course, we need to, so sales leaders need to have this domain knowledge. And also I always say they need to have tech skills. Yeah. So sales tech nowadays, it's something that is really must. Yeah. And we need to keep on reading, keep on trying, looking around ourselves, because it's hard to be a seller.
Yes.
in a fast forwarding world. Yeah. So
yeah. It's also something that I find it can be very mentally draining if you don't kind of take care of yourself and the tasks that you do day to day as well. Like overwhelming yourself with a particular task that you're not necessarily very good at. Because you kind of want to have some confidence building tasks first, and then jump back into if cold calling is your weakness, starting the day with 20 cold calls can kind of be morally destroying and unenjoyable.
True.
Whereas if analysis is a strong point, it's like, okay, well, maybe have a couple of calls, do some analysis on those calls, then have more calls. Don't just bombard yourself with the thing that you suck at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to, when you have to warm up yourself. Yeah, you have to warm up yourself and then go and shoot. But you touch important point also, or I just heard this. But salespeople are usually now overwhelmed with all the other tasks, like you said. They need to do the analysis. Then they need to do the cold calling. Then probably they need to report back. Then they need to learn also new stuff. Then they need to, and I read somewhere that usually they spend only 30% of their time really selling, which is pity because we pay them for selling. Yeah, so let's automate all that stuff and let's see where the value comes. And this is also the discussion that I usually have, let's say, with more advanced or bigger sales organizations. Yeah, and this is the task of a sales leader. Yeah, to say, okay, stop. Don't bother my team too much. Yeah, they are here to sell. If we need to deliver, then somebody else will deliver. If we need to analyze data, controlling, please analyze if we don't have the automation. Yeah, so.
And what are those things? What are the things that overwhelm salespeople that are not related to sales?
If you have a micromanagers or you have some kind of a stuff going on, then it's also reporting back, how many calls you made it and what was the discussion. So I like CRM, yeah, and CRM is not okay if it's empty. I cannot forecast from it. I don't know which customer to, let's say, are my priority and so on. So I'm the one who was leading the team always put this into the CRM. Otherwise, if it's not in CRM, it doesn't exist. Yeah, I cannot plan the marketing budget and so on. Yeah? But there are things when you need to stop and say, okay, is this really the role of our seller? Yeah, or this is the role of business development manager before him, or maybe marketing, or maybe they need administrative help. Yeah, if we really need to report it. So basically, reporting back is such a thing where we need to optimize what is really needed and what not. Then usually, when we were back, let's say 15 years back, we were also traveling a lot. We need to do expense reports. It's ourselves, to do the expense report. You didn't need this money back, because you either go and sell. So that kind of basic stuff that you as a seller need to do. Then I also find when I was working with, let's say, bigger companies, that they said, okay, we have 50 sellers. I said, you have 50 sellers. And I'd see, okay, what's they look like? Yeah. And then you see that they are also drivers. If somebody is missing on that location, they go and to the inventory and they need to have there. So, it's really time to see if he is 8 hours or whatever they daily how much hours they work, or they are doing a lot of stuff differently and which are not the sales. Yeah. So don't confuse that. But majority is micromanagement, reporting back, and it's not even upskilling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's new to me because I've never worked directly in a sales team, but from these conversations, it's clear that time management is an absolutely integral skill to being a good salesperson.
Yes.
And also, like, from the manager or the leader's point of view, creating an environment where they can manage their time doing the things that matter rather than bombarding them with things that are not value add, are not upskilling.
Yeah, they need to be also, the sales leader needs to be kind of a filter, because let's say senior VP or whoever, they always need something. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they expect from sellers to be on all the meetings internally. Don't go. So one sales meeting, it needs to be scheduled for an hour. Agenda needs to be prepared up front. They know where the data is. Let's go. What's the challenge? Okay. What's the help needed? What's your number? Out. Yeah.
Yep.
Go to the field, calling, writing, whatever. It's your sales tactic. Yeah.
Yeah. To play devil's advocate on that, what is integral to record? Because I know you talk about CRM inputs, outcomes of calls, particular things you discover. Like, to your clients, what do you tell them that, look, I want you to record this. I want this. We need this information to make decisions for next week.
So for very basic sales tech startups, who maybe have 5 employees or 10 employees, I don't complicate them much. So basically they need to tell the company, they need to tell the date, so where and what. They need to tell also that we always set the basic sales stages. Usually in enterprise company, we use them 9 or now even more, because with SaaS, it's also consumption and you have all the circle. But here I always say 4 stages. And we are out. So you need to give me the stage where you are with the customer. You need to give me the customer name. You need to give me the date. And if you can do the amount so that we know whether we talk about the premium product or the middle product or the long term, let's say this is the services, then I also need some days because we need to plan the delivery guides. So then I go a little bit further, but otherwise that's it, nothing more.
Okay.
And usually we don't even bring the prices in, and on big CRMs, you can do the offer out of CRM. If it's not so basic, if it's at start, if you don't have your pricing settled, usually they are combining. Don't bother with integration. Just have it. Of course, bother next step. It's fine.
Yeah. Do you ask them to record how many times they call a customer or how the call went? You ask them to record
how many some kind of contact they have. So, when we analyze, we can see whether it's 2 days or 1 week or 2 months or when next, so we can say, okay, this one is kind of a hot, but he said that he will go on vacation and he's back on September. So I have to put myself a reminder in calendar or in CRM that you will call him in September. So that's why I need to know when was your last contact.
Okay. Yeah. I could see how that's extremely useful. It offloads from yourself as well. You don't have to sit there and remember everything. It's already there in your calendar. It's all in an app. It's just like, okay, look, go. Okay, this is what I got to do. All right, cool, done.
Yeah, exactly. And usually somebody else take over, or and they can see also in the CRM. Okay, this person had the last contact. I can continue from there from various reasons. Yeah.
So it's not like if a salesperson leaves, then all their work is gone as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not. It's the retention rate needs to be lower, so you don't need to do all the onboarding all the time, and you also have different brand if you are a stable company. But sometimes happens. Yeah.
So I think we've got about 5 minutes left. The last kind of question that I had was around final part. I guess you got a customer. Then, as a founder, how do you play the role of customer success? How often should you check in with that customer? Ask them what should you ask them? What kind of conversation should you even have with them once they're paying you? Because ideally, you don't want them to churn. You want them to resubscribe or keep being a long-term customer.
Yeah, exactly. Ideally, you will upsell and cross-sell to your existing customers. So you better do the customer success. Yeah. Again, the answer is depends. If you have a SaaS products that costs, I don't know, 10 euro per month, and you have them plenty, no owner can check on all of them. Yeah. So, but otherwise, it's fine that you do some kind of process again. On which moment you check in. So if I go into the perspective of fitness, yeah, and the program is 8 weeks, and we want them upsell into yearly plan for 30 euro, yeah, we do at 4 weeks we do the check-in, and then we do at 6 weeks a check-in, and on the 6th week we are really heavily upselling already, from different stuff. Yeah, so it's not the owner, it's the application, and then if you have also the discussion. So it depends what you're selling and how the product is or the services is set up. But you have to set the process. Yeah, you need to talk to your existing customers. You need to evaluate how they are doing. And it's much less expensive if you upsell and cross-sell to your existing customer than, reaching for new.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I read somewhere earlier, like they're the first people that bought your product, so they're the first people you should ask when trying to understand what's useful about your product. Go to your customers and say, why did you buy this?
And they will tell you. They will tell you. We have also the questionnaire behind, and ask them what you liked, what you didn't like. Please fulfill this, and would you recommend us? Or there are some questions, I don't know them by heart, that it's nice to have if you have, let's say, a big portion of small customers. If you have enterprise, then you go there and you discuss with them, like people to people. Yeah.
Okay, Petra, listen, thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation. I think before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say, like any sort of links you'd like to drop? Where can people find you? And yeah.
Of course. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm most, active there. Otherwise, I also have my small website where you can see 3 offers, from sales perspective. And you can always write me via email or via LinkedIn whatsoever. So the message I give really as a sales lady to all the tech owners is set the basics right. You will benefit further on. Yeah. You will bring this money back with your next sale, or it depends on what products, how much, how big is your product. But in a month, you will have it back, and you can then also scale through you will add different products. You will have the framework, and you will maybe need 2 coachings just to streamline. Yeah. You will get new people. You will also have your basics. So it's really beneficial to do the framework for your sales organization, because without sales, you will not grow your business. Yeah, that's the main message I would like to give. And keep on developing, because tech stuff is nice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Petra.